Can I get a copy of this when
Yes.
It's finished? You just need to send me the link. I can download it from the
Yes. From Zoom. Yes.
YouTube
I can
channel.
do that. Mm-hmm. Or
Okay.
YouTube.
Jai Ramadhava Kunja Vihari Jai Ramadhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Vyasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Vishnupad Dharmam Sattva Vijayakacharya Shri Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Grantaraj Shikhan Bhagavatam ki Samved Bhaktivedanta ki Gaur. All glories to Swami. All glories to Swami. All glories to Swami. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Govinda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dati swapadantikam vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhunam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so welcome to the 10th canto, and we are on Chapter 2, text 41. Let me pull up my thing here. Okay. Can I?
Do you have a slideshow, Maharaj, for today?
No, not a slideshow, but I'm sharing my screen, which will be this one. So here is our verse. Let me move up to where the Sanskrit is. Isyambate kukshigata parapuman. Disyambate kukshigata parapuman. Amshena Shakshad Bhagavan Bhavayana. Amshena Sakshad Bhagavan Bhavayana. Mapud Bhayam Boja Parter Mumukushor. Mabud Bhayam Boja Pater Mumurshur. Gopta Yadunam Bhavita Tavatmaja. Gopta Yadunam Bhavita Tavatmaja. Dishyam Bhate Kukshigata Parapuman. Angshena Shakshat Bhagavan Bhavayana. Madhud Bhayam Bhoja Ter Mumurshor. Gopta Yadunam Bhavita Tavatmaja. Take it away. Tishyambate Kukshigata Parapuman. Amshena Shakshad Bhagavan Bhavayana. Mabhud Bayam Bhoja Parter Mumurshur Gopta Yadunam Bhavita Tavatmaja
Dishyambate Kupshigata Parapuman
Dishyambate Kupshigata Parapuman
Shena Sakshat Bhagavan Bhavayana
Angshena Sakshat Bhagavan Bhavayana
Ayam Bhojapate Mumurshu
Mabhud Bhayam Bhoja Pater Mumurshur Gopta Yadunam Bhavita Tavatmaja. Ladies? Okay. Okay. Dishyamate Kupshigata Parapuman Amshena Sakshat Bhagavan Bhavayana Mabhud Bhayam Bhoja Pater Mumurshur Gopta Yadunam Bhavita Tavatmaja. Disyam, by fortune. Ambam, O mother. Te, your. Kukshigatam, in the womb. My thing is in the way of where I need to be. Para, the supreme. Sakshad, I mean Puman, the personality of Godhead. Amshena, with all his energies, his parts and parcels. Sakshad, directly. Bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead. Bhavaya, for the auspiciousness. Naha, of all of us. Ma, abut, never be. Bhoyam, fearful. Bhojapate, from Kamsa, king of the Bhoja dynasty. Mumurshoho, who has decided to be killed by the Lord. Gopta, the protector. Yadunam, of the Yadu dynasty. Bhavita, will become. Tavatmaja, your son. Okay, so the translation reads as follows. I can do something with this. Can't pull it off the screen. Okay. O Mother Devaki, by your good fortune and ours, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, with all his plenary portions, such as Baladev, is now within your womb. Therefore, you need not fear Kamsa, who has decided to be killed by the Lord. Your eternal son, Krishna, will be the protector of the entire Yadu dynasty. So I say, and you all please repeat. O Mother Devaki, by your good fortune and ours, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, with all his plenary portions, such as Baladev, is now within your womb. Therefore, you need not fear Kamsa, who has decided to be killed by the Lord. Your eternal son, Krishna, will be the protector of the entire Yadu dynasty. So here is the purport. Not very lengthy. The word Parapumam Angshena signify that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. This is the verdict of Shastra, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28. Thus the demigods assured Devaki, your son is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he is appearing with Baladev, his plenary portion. He will give you all protection and kill Kamsa, who has decided to continue his enmity toward the Lord and thus be killed by him. Nishyamate kukshigata parapuman amshena sakshat Bhagavan bhavayana mabhud bhayamboja pater mumurshor Gopta yadu nam bhavita tavatmaja. O Mother Devaki, by your good fortune and ours, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, with all his plenary portions, such as Baladev, is now within your womb. Therefore, you need not fear Kamsa, who has decided to be killed by the Lord. Your eternal son, Krishna, will be the protector of the entire Yadu dynasty. So, okay, stop share. All right, so here we are back again. This verse talks about a feature of the Supreme, or a feature of the world, which is one of the main subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam. The subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam are Atra Sargo Visargascha Stanam Poshanam Utaya Manvantar Ishanukata Nirodo Muktir Ashraya. So there are various subject matters. Sarga is creation, Visarga is subsequent creation. Stanam is the planetary assistance. Poshanam is what we're talking about here. Poshanam is the protection of the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord gives protection to all of his devotees. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we'll just go through these various subject matters of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Poshanam, Stanam Poshanam, Utaya. Utaya is the creative impetus. Manvantar is the advent and the purposes of the various Manvantaras. Ishanukata is talks about the Supreme Lord. Isha is the Supreme and Kata is talks. Ishanukata. Nirodho is winding up of the material universe. Muktir is liberation, and Ashraya is the supreme shelter. So these are the subject matters. But today's verse is squarely talking about Poshanam, which is the protection of the Supreme. The Supreme Lord protects all of his devotees, not necessarily meaning that they will never be killed or harmed, but what it does mean is that they will never become lost if they simply take shelter of him. Eventually, everybody's body will be lost. It's a given in the material world that for one who is born, death is certain, and for one who has died, he is certain to be born again. So we learn the idea that reincarnation is the changing of one body for another. This is described in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita quite thoroughly. Body is never eternal. It must become destroyed either by some accident or some act of violence, or by simply old age taking its toll on the bodily organs, and therefore the soul can no longer maintain its habitation of a particular body, gives it up. And the subtle body, which is made of only mind, intelligence, and false ego, according to one's karma and according to one's desire, is carried into yet another body in some other location, some other place. Now, the Supreme Lord is always looking after the consciousness of his devotees or his followers. So he's protecting them. He's protecting them from becoming lost in ignorance or confusion. But we simply have to hold on tightly. Now, in a broader, more sociological, more historical perspective, we are learning here that the Yadu dynasty was to be protected by the Supreme Lord. At the time when Kamsa was the ruler, he was a great demoniac personality. He was the son of Ugrasena, as was Devaki. So they were brother and sister, or cousin brother and sister, one of those kind of things. So Kamsa, in one sense, was not actually the son of Ugrasena's wife. Ugrasena's wife was put upon by a demoniac person. And when she became pregnant, she gave birth to Kamsa. And Kamsa had a very demoniac mentality, and she cursed her son. And Kamsa was destined to become very powerful, and eventually he imprisoned his own father, Ugrasena, and took over the kingdom when he found out that Ugrasena was planning to not install him as the king. So this is what has preceded. And we know that there were 6 children prior to Vasudeva and Devaki's 7th pregnancy. So Devaki was pregnant for the 7th time with Baladev, but Baladev actually was transferred to the womb of Rohini. So therefore it looked like Devaki had a miscarriage. And it similarly looked like Rohini, Vasudev's other wife, also had a miscarriage, but actually Balaram was transferred from Devaki's womb to Rohini's womb, and eventually Balaram would be born from Rohini's womb. And of course, Krishna was born as the 8th child. The 6 previous children were all killed by Kamsa. We find that Devaki was very, very mortified that each of her children was killed one after another by Kamsa. Of course, when she was married and she was being taken on the chariot of her brother Kamsa to their new home with her husband Vasudeva. So Vasudeva was in the chariot, Devaki was in the chariot, and Kamsa was driving, but the voice said that the 8th child will kill you. And immediately Kamsa grabbed his sister and was about to kill her so she could never give birth to this child that was destined to kill him. And Vasudeva was able to quickly persuade his cousin-in-law or brother-in-law not to kill his wife, and pledged that he would deliver any children to Kamsa. And although this was very painful for him, he nonetheless followed through, and he gave all the 6 children. Now there's a whole story behind the 6 children that these are called the Sadgarbhas. They were at one time children of Marichi, and they were demigods. And there's a couple of different accounts of this. One of them is that they saw Brahma, and Brahma was creating the first beings in the universe. So Brahma was at a time when there were no other beings in the universe, and Brahma became attracted to his daughter Vak. And they looked with abhorrence on this. And there's another account Brahma eventually married Saraswati, which was also his daughter, because there was no possibility of someone else. That was the way it was at that time. There were no other beings in the universe. So another account says that was what they did. They found it laughable, or found it, they were critical of Brahma. And as a result of this, they were cursed to take birth in demoniac womb. And as a result, these 6 children became born first of Hiranyakashipu, and then later by Hiranyakashipu's grandson, Kalanemi. So first it was Hiranyakashipu, and then later on, Hiranyakashipu had a son named Prahlad, and Prahlad had one of his sons was Kalanemi. So Kalanemi was very demoniac, and his sons, these 6 Garbhas, were approaching Brahma to get the benediction that they would not be killed. And when Hiranyakashipu, the grandfather, learned of this, he became very angry with them and gave up all affection for them and cursed them that they would be killed by their father. So their father was Kalanemi, but when Kalanemi was killed by Vishnu, he took birth as Kamsa. So Kalanemi became Kamsa, and these 6 children became the first 6 children of Devaki. And so they were indeed killed by their father, Kalanemi, now in a new incarnation as Kamsa. So they were later on delivered. There's another story that we find later on, that when Krishna and Balaram were being glorified by their mother and father, Devaki and Vasudeva, we find out that, right after Krishna was born in the prison of Kamsa, Krishna is taken by his father Vasudeva to Nanda and Yashoda. So Nanda and Yashoda become the foster parents of Krishna, but there is a switch that's taken place, that Nanda and Yashoda have also given birth at that time. Yashoda has given birth to a girl, and Devaki gave birth to a boy, and Vasudeva switched the boy and the girl and brought the girl back to the prison where Devaki and Vasudeva were. And he left the boy, Krishna, with Yashoda and Nanda. So Nanda gradually becomes and Nanda and Yashoda become the mother and father of these 2 children. In fact, they raise Krishna and Balaram, because also Rohini is living with Nanda, even though Rohini's actual husband is Vasudeva. Vasudeva's in prison. Yes.
Krishna doing something very interesting here. He's going to defeat Kamsa. And on 42nd Street, they have this guy with a little table and some walnuts. He puts a pea under one walnut and he goes like this, So Krishna's like switching this child, that child. Kamsa doesn't have a chance, Krishna's doing a real switcheroo here to confuse the demoniac adversity.
So he's definitely playing an interesting switching process there. And of course, Narada Muni explains it all to Kamsa, which you may wonder, well, why is Narada Muni, a great saint, giving this demon the inside information on what's happening? Of course, Kamsa tries to kill the child, that the girl now that's been switched, and she is immediately slips out of his grasp, goes in the air and says, I am the deity that you worship. I am Durga, and you cannot kill me. But the child that you want to kill is already born, but somewhere else. And of course, there's a point where Devaki and Vasudeva have been reunited with Balaram and Krishna, who have come back to Dwarka. not Dwarka, but to Mathura. And there, Vasudev starts to offer all these incredible prayers to Krishna about his divinity, which is not actually what Krishna wants to hear, because although Krishna is the supreme personality of God, and he is playing the role of a ordinary living being. And to have someone glorify him as the Supreme Lord, much less that's his father, his actual father, he didn't want to really hear it. So he allowed Vasudev to become again covered by Yoga Maya and forget the divinity of Krishna. But his wife is there too. So Devaki's there. And she says, my dear Krishna, I have heard that you delivered the sons of your teacher from an untimely death. So could you please deliver these 6 children that I never met? And so Krishna and Balaram agree to do that they're going to bring these 6 children that were killed. So we had the first 6 children from Devaki that were killed by Kamsa. The 7th one was a miscarriage. The 8th one was Krishna and swapped. And so these 6 children are currently living in the lower heavenly planets, in Sutala, I believe it is. So he goes down and he meets Bali Maharaj. And Bali Maharaj profusely offers all kinds of obeisances to Krishna and Balaram. And he's absolutely thrilled to see them because, Krishna and Balaram don't spend much time down there in the lower heavenly planets, and so he is asking what he can do for them, and they explain that actually they have come to reclaim these 6 children who were living with Bali Maharaj in Sutala. So we have these lower heavenly planetary systems. Bali Maharaj is happy to provide them, and then they bring these 6 children back for Devaki. And so Devaki gets to meet these 6 children again. They've been brought back in another incarnation. And they are children in the very beginning. She gives milk to them. And because they get the same milk that Krishna had once drunk, they become purified of their contamination. And then they're allowed to grow older. And immediately they go back to the heavenly planets where they were originally positioned as children of Marichi. So she only gets to meet them for a short time before they progress on, but they dead. They are actually demigods in the whole thing. So it's interesting how Krishna protects. So he even protected the sons of Marichi, even though they had to take birth in this demoniac situation. Even though they had to go through all this difficulty, they took shelter of Brahma. They angered their grandfather, Hiranyakashipu. They were cursed. They were killed by their father in another incarnation as Kamsa. And now they're being brought back from the subterranean heavenly world, from Sutala, where Bali Maharaj was custodian of them. And they get the chance to meet their mother, Devaki. They get purified, and then they go back to the heavenly worlds. So Krishna will be known as the protector of the Yadu dynasty because he is the Lord of the Yadus in one sense. Eventually, Krishna and Balaram will grow older. They will go back to Mathura at the behest of Akrura, who was sent by Kamsa to bring them for a contest, a martial contest in Mathura, where they will fight these 2 big wrestlers, Mushtika and Shanura. And Krishna and Balaram will indeed fight Mushtika and Shanura, and both will be killed by Krishna and Balaram. And then Kamsa will become enraged by that and order that Krishna and Balaram be arrested. But instead, Krishna will jump on Kamsa's throne, drag him down, and in a short time, Kamsa will be dead. And then Kamsa's other brothers will attack and Balaram will dispatch all of them. And then they will start an entire new kingly administration, put Ugrasena back on the throne in Mathura. So this is kind of a encapsulation or a summary of how this whole section works. That the important thing, though, is that we are protected. If one takes shelter of the Supreme Lord, one's consciousness is protected. We may die suddenly. We may die some kind of a difficult thing. You know, yesterday, of course, we had the whole episode on the subway where, you know, so many people were shot by a crazy man on a train, throwing some smoke bomb at 22nd Street on the N train. And there's a whole police investigation. The trains were all shut down yesterday and the whole thing. So there's nothing certain about this world that we live in. It's a dangerous place. Padam padam vipadam natesham, that there's danger at every step. And the one secure thing we can know is that there is no such thing as security. That's the one secure thing that we can know, that there is no such thing as security.
Maharaj, thank you. Thank you for the morning affirmations. Thank you very much. We're all going to die. There is no certainty, no security. Thank you. Good morning.
Right. That's our affirmation, that for one who is born, death is certain. For one who is dead, it's certain that he will be born again. So the soul will never die, but the body certainly will. So, you know, what is it? Nasato vidyate bhavo nabhavo vidyate sataha ubior api drishton tastvanios tattvadarshibhihi, that the sages have declared of the existent there is no cessation, and of the non-existent there is no endurance. This they've concluded by studying the nature of both. So the soul is eternal. It always was, always will be. And the body is never eternal. It is always temporary. And it means it will one day draw to a close. So life is a preparation for this act that will happen at some time during the course of our life. It'll be the last moment of our material life. And if we have made an effort to please the Supreme Lord, to focus on the Supreme Lord, we've done the one thing that actually makes any difference. Otherwise, we may be very famous. We may have accumulated a huge amount of wealth. We may be very powerful, either physically or politically. Kamsa was very powerful, both physically and politically. We may be very erudite. We may be very well known as being a great thinker or a great philosopher or scientist. We may be very beautiful and attractive to people. All of these things may be there. We may be very renowned, but none of it makes any difference, because with the removal of the body, which will happen to all of us, the soul will continue, and the name and reputation will remain behind, and the body will become dust, stool, or ashes, depending on what the current practices of the local population. So this body is destined to be destroyed. But if we try to learn who the Supreme Lord is, and this is a difficult part, we can understand there is a Supreme Lord. That's not hard to recognize. Most people who are not very diehard atheists will recognize there's a Supreme Being of some kind. But the question is, what is our relationship with that Supreme Being? At best, many people only feel the Supreme Being as being someone who's up there somewhere, somehow, and delivers for us what we want, at best. But actually, that's a very meager and very unsatisfying relationship with the Supreme. But bhakti yoga is about trying to rekindle our real relationship with the Supreme. Just as Yashoda and Devaki and Nanda and Vasudeva and all the rest of the Yadu dynasty had a relationship with Krishna. So we do too. And he's a person. Now, why do we not have any personal relationship with the Supreme? The answer is because we have done our best to turn our back on it, not just one lifetime, but on countless lifetimes. We have wanted to forget about the Supreme and focus on some particular material ambition that we had in this life, in this world. And as a result, we therefore have ignored the Supreme and focused instead on our material ambitions. And is it any wonder that we don't have any connection with the Supreme anymore? We don't have any knowledge about the Supreme. And when we think about the Supreme, it's a concept and barely more. But if we engage with Bhakti Yoga, we perform activities which are service to the Supreme. There are 9 types of devotional service. We will reawaken our original relationship with the Supreme. That's what we are hoping to do. So I want to stop at this point and ask if there are any questions or comments by anyone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, a couple things. One is I doubt that the Marichi that you spoke of is the same Marichi that was pretending to be a deer in Ram Leela. It's a different.
Well,
Leela.
I may have to have her repeat what she's saying because I can't hear it either.
Oh, really? Oh, can you hear me better now?
Let me see if I can turn up the volume on my own little
I don't know.
teeny weensy speaker.
Is this any better?
A little better.
Oh, I can't understand what's going on.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So my question is, the Marichi that you spoke of, isn't that a different Marichi from the one who was pretending to be a deer in Ram Leela?
That's Maricha. There's Marichi and Maricha.
What did she say?
Oh, sorry. She asked the Marichi that we were talking about, that was the father of the Sadgarbhas, or the 6 children. How was he the same person as in Ram Leela, the Maricha that was the person who impersonated the deer and drew Ram away from Sita so that Ravana could capture her? And so, right, they're 2 different, and one is Marichi and the other is Maricha, as far as I understand it.
Okay, so Maricha is Ram Leela?
Yeah, Maricha was the demon killed by Ram. And
Okay.
You can hear me, Mother?
yeah, I can hear you because we're in the same room.
Anyway, there are people online who they can hear us.
You have to mute yourself, Maharaj.
Mute yourself.
If you mute yourself, then I could unmute Adi without it echoing.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. Okay, I'm muted now.
Hey, Hare Krishna. Maharaj, in your life, we have to acknowledge that. Did you mute?
I just muted and somebody muted me and unmuted. So now I'm muted.
Yeah, in your life, we can.
I have to not only mute myself, but I have to mute my speaker.
Yeah, in your life, we can see that you've heard about how Krishna protects people. And you've actually done something very courageous. You don't have a job. You don't have an income, right? You don't have a real residence. You're traveling all over the universe, spreading love of God, And so if you could share with us, how you manage to go on day by day without, most people think, I need a job. I need a job. We said, somebody called me yesterday, I need a job. Of course, we gave her employment. But still, for a devotee to hear that Krishna is protecting and to have enough courage to actually step out and let go of material arrangements for sustenance and protection and depend on Krishna. That's intense. You know, a lot of people are halfway there, 1 foot on the boat, 1 foot on the dock, you know. But can you share with you how your confidence, is it steady? Do you sometimes say, what the hell am I doing? Who's going to take care of me, you know?
Okay, so now I'm unmuted. When I joined Krishna consciousness, I was about 24 years old. And I moved into the temple, and I had a room, and I was given food and clothing and, you know, all those kind of things. And after a short time, I realized that, well, what else did I need? Of course, I never became married. So I never had the idea of how I would support my family. So I never had to think about that. You know, it just went on day after day until today, you know, that I never.
So you take it 1 day at a time.
Right. I took it 1 day at a time. But, you know, I always had this feeling that if you try to make Krishna your family, that he will provide for you. It may not always be the way you expect or would, you know, would hope it would be optimized. But over time, I've learned the golden principle that the more specific you are about what it takes to make you happy, the less likely it will ever happen. That your understanding of what happiness is or what you need to be happy, the more you're able to just take whatever is there, the better off you are.
You know, it's like, I just wanted to say, like, it's an old saying, the more you think you become obsessed with being happy, the less happy you'll ever be.
Right.
And as far as the Christian, there's an old saying, God doesn't give you what you want, he gives you what you need.
Right. Right.
You know.
Right. Even
Prahlad Maharaj says, echoing. Prahlad Maharaj says that as soon as we begin our endeavor for happiness, our distress begins.
Right.
And therefore, don't think about your own happiness. Krishna says to Arjuna, fight for me. Set aside all desire for gain or safety and do your service. So as far as I can understand, if we're absorbed in serving Krishna at this moment, like you said, 1 day at a time, you know, it says the lilies of the field, right? That thing in the Bible.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't sow.
Look at them. They don't
and yet
sow, nor do they reap into
Solomon
barns. Yet
in all
thy
his
heavenly
splendor.
Father has provided them. Are
Yeah.
you not much better than
Solomon
they?
doesn't have fine arraignment, you know. The birds of the air, they don't have barns and bank accounts. Shukadeva Goswami, who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, he was naked. He didn't even have a pocket, much less a bank account, right? And, you know, here he is like walking about, understanding that the Lord is sustaining me. Let me focus on serving him. Seek first the kingdom of God and all else will follow. And without that, the mind will just fritter all over the place about, you know, I need this, I need that, which is all ridiculous. Because you can't even digest your own breakfast. Can't bring the sun up, can't grow one plant. You know, the earth and the rain are not in my control. Let me stop talking.
Well, material happiness is a fraud. I think probably the most difficult thing for most people to grasp is what you were saying a minute ago, that the idea we have is that we form a concept of what will make us happy, and then we go out with our picks and shovels and try to hack that out in the material world. And that never works. I mean, it seems like it should. It does seem like a realistic way to do it. And if you watch people on the street here in Manhattan or in Brooklyn or anywhere else, you'll see that they certainly think that that must be what it takes. Your parents probably thought that. And people in the same workplace where you are or wherever you are, they all think that, but it never works. And what does work seems totally counterintuitive, which is that you try to serve the Supreme Lord and you don't worry about what's happening with yourself. And you find it, strangely enough, you're happy and you're satisfied and you don't feel like the whole world is closing in on you. Unfortunately, when we try to create happiness by making an image of it and then chasing that image, we discover instead we just become miserable. And, as one writer said, Oscar Wilde, that there are two great tragedies in the world. One is not getting what you desperately want in the material world. And the second tragedy is getting what you desperately want in the material world. So it seems strange that both things should be a tragedy. And the reason is, of course, I think the second option is even more bewildering to people than the first one. If you're desperately after something in the material world, there's always this sense that I'm almost there. My ship's about to come in. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it's just a few paces ahead. I will surely get it within the next month. But when you actually do get it, and you realize that there's this hollowness to whatever it was that you were after, that I think is something that really throws people into a complete confusion, because you don't know why it should be like that. I am famous. Now I did get a lot of money. Now I am world class in something. Now I am well known. But there's some kind of emptiness there. And that's bewildering for most people. They don't realize that the material world is full of two-dimensional billboards that have no reality behind them. People think that by being wealthy, by being famous, by being powerful, by being knowledgeable in some subject, by being, renounced, by being beautiful, that they will become happy. This is what everybody's sure of, but it's a fraud. And that's why generally people suffer. Okay, I'm muted again.
Yeah, Bhagavatam says, unceasing, unmotivated devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the only thing that will ever satisfy the self. Unceasing, unmotivated devotion. So if we focus on that, then we have to not just withdraw ourselves from material endeavor, but Krishna says, do this, and everything else will be there. Water the root of the tree, and the whole tree benefits, right? Just serve Krishna.
Yeah, so you might as well give up your particular ideas of material happiness. They're not likely to happen, and even if they do, they're not going to make you happy. But the problem is that a lot of times, all people have when they actually, quote unquote, make it in the material world, the only satisfaction they ever really get is knowing that other people envy them. That's a real low-grade type of satisfaction, because what can you do with millions of dollars? You can't eat more. What can you do with being the best sports star? Someone will eventually, some young buck will do better than you at some point because your body will get older. What will you do if you're a beauty queen or something like that? At some point you'll get old and wrinkly. What will you do if you become the president? You will eventually, someone else will become the president. You'll be one of those long lists of people who once were the president, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the whole thing, that none of these things satisfy us, but we think they will. And if you think that they will, go for it. Let me know if you ever run into something, because I did it and it never worked for me. And strangely enough, when I gave up trying to do it, when I just, thought, well, okay, whatever comes my way, I'll try to live within it. And somehow all these years, I've just mostly moved my mouth and not done anything really productive, So somehow or another, here I still am,
The Hasidic Jewish people say, who is a wealthy man? When you're satisfied with whatever God gives. The whole paradigm shift.
We couldn't hear what
Who is a wealthy man? One who's satisfied with whatever God gives. If he puts me in a palace, I'll serve there. If he puts me on the street, I'll serve there. If I go to heaven or hell, I'll serve there and relax. Kind of a relief.
It's wherever you are, there you are.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing but that.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, if you're satisfied with what you have, that is actual wealth, you know. But be aware that our culture teaches us always to be dissatisfied, you know. You've got the iPhone now, you have to get the newer one that's just coming out. If you've got some kind of Lexus or some kind of very, you know, advanced car, you have to get the next kind, you know. I rode in a Tesla for the first time a few days ago, but our doctors up in, you know, Newburgh, you know, the Ravels, one of them bought a Tesla, you know. It's a super duper car. It has a huge screen in the middle of it. It drives itself to some extent. I think, wow.
It's not even an expensive car. It's a normal price car.
Oh yeah.
It's a medium price car. It just has the imagery of.
Right. Right.
Maharaj, did they experience any?
You know, income earner can afford.
Right. Right. So at any rate, and probably in one sense they're better for the environment in the long run. But anyhow, the whole idea is that whatever we have, if we've got a place in the suburbs, we want someplace more in the more ritzy suburbs. If we've got a house that's 600,000, we want a house that's over $1 million. If we've got a house that's over $1 million, we want one that's $2 million. You know, if we've got 2 cars, we want 3. If we have, you know, a flat screen that's, you know, 3 or 4 feet diagonally, we want one that's 5 feet diagonally. Whatever it is, there's always one more, one better. And we never think that, why do we need to go to the next one?
Maharaj, it's
That's
Maharaj,
the way material nature goes. It constantly eggs us on.
Comments, questions? Look at.
Oh, yeah. I forget to look at the chat.
30 people.
Maharaj, can you hear us on Zoom?
Yes, I can. I was muting myself for a while. I keep forgetting. What I realized is I don't need to mute my audio, my microphone. What I need to do is mute my speaker. It's a different thing. If I mute my speaker, then we don't get a feedback loop.
You just brought us back to your original point of why am I after this carrot? Material happiness is a carrot. It's always
Yeah. That was last month. We talked about chasing the carrot, right? He's talking about my class that I gave a month ago, where we were talking about chasing the carrot. So in the Western world, we talk about chasing the apple, but in India, they talk about chasing the carrot, because you've got the washerman with a little donkey and he's got this huge pile of clothes. He's got a stick and there's a dangling carrot and the donkey's going after the carrot. So we are trained that way. From birth, we're told that that's what we should do. Yeah.
I just have had a theory lately. This man that's doing interviews on Skid Row.
If you can give one of the phones there so she's amplified.
Yeah.
There's 30 other people listening.
Okay.
Right. It's kind of hard working with Zoom and a
getting
Zoom
myself
at the
into
same
this.
time.
Hi, everyone. A man that's interviewing people on Skid Row, homeless people, people that have been teachers and lawyers and kind of made it through it, whatever life has brought them to this place of homelessness. And this one woman said that maybe when the majority of the world becomes homeless, everyone will start paying attention to each other, because that's where our economy and how we treat people is going, that we're all going to meet in
Right.
varied places where we can finally see each other in these ways that we were unable to see each other before. And I just came up with what you were talking about materialism and being happy and yeah. So thank you.
Well, there is a trend these days for what's called downsizing, which I think is partly, it means that some people are getting it, even people who don't know about Bhagavatam or don't know about Krishna consciousness, that to have the best, the most expensive, the most premium, the more you want those things, the more you're bought by a system that forces you to work 24/7 and be, subservient to a whole system of expectations that gives you no time even to enjoy those things that you have now
Maharaj,
earned the
Maharaj,
money
so
to be able to.
what is our criteria? Where do we stop with
What is
material?
our criteria and where do we stop?
Yeah, with material aspirations as devotees. What's the criteria? Where do we stop? 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms?
Kamasya nendriya pratir labo jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasya narto karma vihi. I think this is the verse.
That's 1 to 10. Yeah, 1 to 10. Shrimad Bhagavatam. Vaisheshika Prabhu's favorite verse. 1 to 10.
Right. That one's desire should never be pointed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life for self-preservation. And for someone who's after the highest purpose, nothing else should be the goal of one's works, I think is how the translation works, something like that, Kamasya nindriya pratirlabho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasya narto yascheha karma vihi. I think that. What's the number on that one?
The one that you just quoted, 1 to 10.
What is it?
Jiveta verse, self-preservation.
Yeah. Self-preservation.
1 to 10.
Okay, we're over time. I'm going to have to play the national anthem and sign off of Radio Free Europe here. So thank you all very much. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. All glories. Hare Krishna.
Self-preservation ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thanks everyone for joining.